Hello everyone and welcome back to another Getting Stuff Painted, my bi-weekly, give or take, a little bit earlier than that this time, update on the various miniatures that have been getting painted for the various miniature games we cover here on the channel. And not as many to show off this time, but I have been kind of trying to get a lot of stuff done for each individual game rather than focusing too much on like Batman for instance or anything like that. So to that end, we have the X-Force releases for Crisis Protocol, we have a little bit of DC Universe, we do have a little bit of Batman here, and then finally at the end there we have some Star Wars Legion, including a 3D printed mini that we'll talk about as we go on. But we'll start as always by going left to right. So let's start with the man himself, Deadpool, who I did try and reposition because he's meant to look a bit more kind of like frolicking on the missile. At first I wanted to not have the missile at all, and I tried very hard to just make him look like he's like bouncing off of the concrete, but it didn't quite look right at the angle. So what I settled for was that yes, the rocket is firing, but it looks like he's like using it for momentum to bang off of it, like or bounce off of it with his foot in a semi-serious way. Because I think, like I said when I did the unboxing, there's a line for how much silliness I like. But that's the settlement I reached, like make it look like he's being kind of cool rather than just prancing. And as always, everything here is done in contrast. So this was a Blood Angel's red with Black Templar for his suit, with some snakebite leather for his belt buckle, or not his belt buckle, his belt straps, and his sheaths for his katanas. And the trail on the rocket was just done in the grey sear base, but then mixed in some Yandan yellow, and then while it was wet mixed in some known oil as well to try and create that kind of cloudy look, which I think turned out okay. My only regret is just making the missile pure silver, which is how it's done in the official paint job for the record, but I could have made it like Militarum green or bright red, you know, something that would stand out a bit more than just silver. Silver's a bit boring, especially for Deadpool. His pose, incidentally, is incredibly similar to the Deadpool miniature that was released for Night Model's short-lived Marvel miniature game. He's kind of like crouched on a rock, but he's got his katanas out in the exact same pose. And if you do buy the Deadpool box, you get a bunch of extra heads for him that you won't use. I think he has 4 head options, it was. But he came with Bob, Agent of Hydra, who you can model wearing a chef's hat, but I decided that was a bit too silly. That is not in focus, it's focusing on the background still. I think that's in focus now. No, it's not. There we go, I had to switch hands. So Bob, Agent of Hydra, with his gigantic... Oh, I noticed a discrepancy that was a little bit weird, and I wonder if Marvel made them change it. In Bob's stat card, which you can see in the unboxing, he's using like a Commando-esque or Resident Evil games-esque rocket launcher, where, you know, it's like green with the four missiles loaded into it. Maybe they thought that looked too realistic, and Marvel made them change it on the actual sculpt to this ridiculous looking thing, which doesn't look practical at all. In fact, when Bob fires it, he kills himself by mistake. That's how powerful it is. But it was weird that the art did not match the miniature, and it does lead me to believe that Marvel wanted something changed, or they couldn't make the missile look right, so they just changed it to this more basic shape. Anyway, for Bob, we have Warp Lightning for most of his suit, Yandan yellow for the rest, and known oil over the top for the base. We have some Gryph-hound orange and Lead Belcher silver with the same wash over it as well. Quite like the miniature, and it's hard to see because I didn't do it in red, but it says hot sauce on the box he's standing on, because I guess he runs that for Deadpool. Alright, next we have the other 2 members of the X-Force. Also, if there's quite a few obvious cuts, it's because hay fever is very bad this morning and I just finished blowing my nose, and there may be similar cuts because bending over this camera here to talk about these miniatures makes my nose run. We'll start with Domino first rather than the last one, Cable, because he is the leader of the X-Force, it's not Deadpool. Although I guess they might do like a tougher version of Deadpool in the future and make him a alternative leader for the X-Force. Domino, I didn't really do much on Domino. I'm not really a fan of the dynamic. She's been exploded, but luckily the rock is protecting her pose. I prefer how, well, 1, how she looked in Deadpool 2, and 2, a bunch of us play this mobile game that has Domino in it, and she looks a bit too silly. It's way too close to her comic book self, which is way too goofy, but halfway between that and this would have been ideal. There should have been some extra blue on her legs, but I could not see the mold lines for where it was meant to be, so I just decided not to do it. Just added a little bit of Talisar blue to the sides there. The rest is just Black Templar and for her hair it was ultramarines blue with a little bit of dry brushing of a lighter colour on the front there. And her skin, let's see, what did I do for her skin? I think it was just, well, I added a little bit black for the domino eye, and then I think I just went over it with the non-oil. It looks, actually, let me see, I'm taking it away from the camera first. Yeah, that's what I did. I couldn't remember if I used a blue wash ever so slightly, but no, I don't think I did. So that was her. Not too fussed one way or another about her. Cable, though, I'm glad turned out pretty decently, because he's an impressive miniature. It's one of my favourite dynamic poses they've done, like him bringing up the shield to block some bullets and whatnot. And I went with the cape option, but I put the spare gun on the base just to, you know, use it. So he's wearing darker X-Men clothes, so I went from Talisar blue, which is what I used for the shield, and also for Cyclops' armour, to just using Ultramarines blue for the darker shade, Yandin yellow for the yellow parts, and for his cape it was Skeletal Horde and non-oil over everything. And then same stuff for the smoke as I did for Deadpool's base, and it's a Yandin yellow for like the bullets hitting. But yeah, I'm actually pretty happy with how he turned out. He looks impressive, and as he should do. Oh, and Gulman flesh for his skin tones, obviously. He is the leader of the X-Force. It's a very impressive looking miniature, and I didn't mess it up as much as I thought I would when I started attempting to paint it, so turned out pretty well, I think. So next up, just two additions that I found cheap, one of which is an old metal miniature. We'll cover that first, for the DC Universe miniature game by Name Models that we play here every so often. So this, at present, is the only Red Lantern representation the game has, which is Atrocitus. I think everybody wants Dexstar, which is a cat that got treated so badly it got chosen as being a bearer of a Red Lantern ring so it could extract his revenge against people who mistreated it. Atrocitus and Dexstar are both in Injustice 2, the video game. But either way, this is there is a plastic sculpt of this. This is the ancient, like, quite heavy metal one that I picked up just because it was cheap. And I used Blood Angels Red, and I used the pink, the contrast pink I always forget the name of, for his skin tone and also for the light in the lantern itself. And then Aggressor Shade and non-oil mixed, or not mixed together, sorry, but mixed in terms of using it in different parts of him to add a little bit of tone and wear and tear, etc. And at the same time as finding him on sale at a shop trying to dump their old inventory, I also found I think this is the one Superman I did not have for DC Universe. This is the one that kind of reminds me of the Christopher Reeve Superman more so than the others, and it falls in that nice space of he's a little bit cheaper than like the Henry Cavill Superman, or like the one that I've used on the massive base. He comes in at I think 17 power levels, which is opposed to like 18, 19, so it frees up a little bit of space to bring someone else that's pretty strong. Basically use the exact same colours for him as I use for everyone. If you do get this set, you can actually make him be Red Sun Superman or Old Man Superman. Not from Dark Knight Returns, I forget where it's from though. It has a slightly different looking S, but it comes with an option for each of those if you want to make it. So I use Aethermatic Blue to make it look like he's standing on kind of like the Fortress of Solitude ice. Blood Angels Red, Talisar Blue, and Golden Flesh. Pretty simple. Painted Superman a bunch of times now, but I like that pose, and I like that it does remind me of the Christopher Reeve Superman, the goofy kind of 80s, 90s Superman. So for the Batman miniature game, we'll start with the man himself, because we have Batman Year One from a very good comic and also very good animated movie adaptation, which is always very hard to focus because of the mixture of detail, but then also the dark colours used. Getting there, almost. So I did use Black Templar, but then I did a dry brushing of the Fang to try and add a bit more detail to his cape. I might have went a little bit heavy-handed with it, I feel, but I do also think that it helped give it some definition, especially like if it catches the light. There's a light behind me here. If it catches the light, I actually think it makes it look suitably shiny, if you know what I mean, for his cape. So I'm quite happy with how that turned out. And that is snakebite leather with a wash over the top for the Woody standing on the rubble of the apartment building he hides in, and just a Black Templar with a dry brushing of Storm Vermin fur over the top to lighten it back up a little bit. Same as what I did for the Adam West Batman. Not much else to say about him. I'm looking forward to seeing how he does on the table though with the Year One Gordon that we covered last time. So now, let's do these two. We have reinforcements for the Cobra Kuliaga Cobra Cult. These are their heavy troopers that kind of look like cobras, like literal cobras I mean, with the way their armour is and their faces. I used the same scheme for both. This one's equipped with a flamethrower, the other one's got an assault rifle I think. Militarum green with Griffhound orange and Aggressor shade over the top and silver for the backpacks, and a little bit of red for their glowing eyes just to match the colour schemes. I forgot I had these sitting for quite a while, and they offer some good options if you want more firepower in a Cobra Cult list, and they appear on some of the objective cards as well, so that was also what reminded me of, hang on a minute, don't I have those? I have those sitting around and they're still not painted, so why not? And I did them. So there we have it. We'll see them hopefully the next time the Cobra Cult is on the table. And then we have a very old first edition mini for the Batman miniature game, Heavy Metal. This is Azrael as he appears in Arkham City and Arkham Knight video games. Usually contrast paint does really well with metal, but I kind of struggled with this one because there wasn't enough definition in the metal. There wasn't just enough, like they tried to cram in too much detail to a small miniature, to the point where it was actually lost. The detail was lost in my opinion. So as a result, I don't think the contrast paint had anywhere to go, and it didn't turn out as great as it could have. Like I did try my best to pick out the details. He has a very complicated costume in the video games, and he is pretty cool, and I think he's actually pretty decent on the table as well. I do have a 3rd edition ized version of his stat card, so we'll see him at some point to see how he does. But yeah, that's just an old 1st edition mini that I was able to pick up. Hot off the press, I finished this last night. This is the final miniature from the original release of the Back to Gotham box set that I never got around to doing because, one, the mould for Harley was slightly miscast, so I couldn't put the hands where they were supposed to be, so now it looks like she's hitting herself in the face with the shaft of her hammer instead of like preparing for a swing, so I hated that, and I found the idea of doing the base too intimidating. Come on now, there we are, give it a second, my finger's in the way probably. I think that's getting there. Maybe not. Maybe it doesn't want me to show you because it knows what happened with this miniature. There we go, that's in focus now. So it turned out better than I thought. Like that's sometimes what happens. Like when I think something is way too intimidating for me to tackle, I'll do it and it ends up looking okay, and then I'll do something that I think is easy, like Vision, and then it turns out horrible. So for her, it's Blood Angels Red and Black Templar for her suit. That's the pink contrast for the Funhouse. And then I'm really happy with how I made like the destroyed painted murder clown look, because it, like the official paint job had the paint looking really chipped. So to replicate that, I watered down the contrast and spread it overly thin, so it looks like it's fading around as you turn here, and on the eyebrows as well, and like the nose and the mouth. And I think it kind of works. I do. And she's got dynamite on the base there for some reason, and then it's just that was wild wood on that wood just to make it look horrible and disgusting, and Yandan yellow for her hair. But yeah, one of her legs is slightly miscast. It's not sitting super firm in the scenery, and as I say, the hammer's not meant to look like she's smacking herself in the face, but it is Harley, so you know, maybe it's possible she would do that. So last but not least we have, well, let's start with the unofficial miniature first. This is a 3D printed fan-made Mandalorian for Star Wars Legion. It's to Star Wars Legion scale, and it came separately with Baby Yoda, although I decided to like make it look like it's just right next to him. I just glued it to his elbow and thigh there. There might be unofficial rules for him, I don't know, but I just got it because I like the Mandalorian and wanted a miniature of him. There is no official one yet, so this is him in his Beskar armour, with Baby Yoda nearby doing the hand thing, you know the thing I mean, and he has his jetpack and his cape pushed to his side here. Snakebite leather for the non-Beskar armour parts, silver, lead belcher silver for those, and a wash over the top with warp lightning for Baby Yoda's skin, which is a little too dark, but Militarum I thought was a little bit too light. So if we keep that to one side, that looks perfectly in scale with like the Stormtroopers I painted recently and anything else I painted from the game so far. But then I also painted up an official Mandalorian. I painted up Boba Fett, and he is out of whack scale wise with Mando here. Not least their helmet size, but body size. Now I don't know when this came out, like this could be one of the first sculpts that, well, Atomic Mass Games runs this game now, but it was Fantasy Flight Games, what was it called? Either way. So maybe this was one of the first sculpts for the game. It looks out of proportion. The helmet is too large, the body is too large. Also, it comes on one of those really flimsy poles. He's broken off of it twice already and I've lost patience with it. The miniature I like, but I had to turn it now so it looks like he's pointing up, and there's very few miniatures that are taller than him, so that is silly. I wanted him either pointing straight or pointing down slightly, like he's swooping down, but it wouldn't sit on the pole, so I had to settle for that. But yeah, I find it weird. Like, I wish I had a couple. I don't have anything sitting from Star Wars Legion to prove that I'm not talking nonsense. He looks out of proportion, which is an official miniature. This one looks better, maybe not ideal or perfect, but he looks better on par with like some of the official miniatures. I guess if you compare Boba Fett to maybe like the Darth Vader miniatures, that makes sense, but Darth Vader's helmet is huge, whereas the Mandalorians, or well, Boba Fett's, I don't know, maybe, I just felt he was slightly out of proportion, but maybe I'm imagining it. It's not like I know enough about these things, but it looked off to me, whereas this fan-made one looks perfect. So, who knows. As far as the colours I use, that's Flesh Terror red, Militarum green, Lead Belcher silver, Iyanden yellow, and for the base I use one of the texture paints that Citadel makes, and Black Templar for his blaster as well, with a little bit of fire effect on his jetpack. So yeah, yet another Star Wars Legion miniature painted. Maybe I'll play the game one day, who knows, but for now I'm just painting the miniatures from it. So that is going to do it. If you want to show me what you've been painting, feel free to show me on Twitter at GamerEND, and I will like and favourite and whatnot when I see them. And for next time, I'm not sure. Going to start working on, probably right after recording this actually, going to start working on the new Spider-Man releases for Crisis Protocol. Probably starting with Carnage and Mysterio. Still got Batman stuff to do, of course, it's a never-ending slog. And do have some Star Wars Legion as well to focus on, but who knows, I like trying to mix it up. Thank you very much for watching, hope you get great stuff painted. It's a perfect time to be doing so, especially if it's swelteringly hot, like it is here. Get your stuff painted. Hope you enjoyed this, and I shall see you next time. Ta-da for now.